like really jamming with that song, but we need this full hour for what's about to happen. So just before I get the panelists to come on and say hi, they're all in the waiting room. You can say hi to them in the chat if you want. But just before they come on, I want to remind everybody that if you've missed anything so far this week, if you're just tuning in now, workshopweek.co/live has all the links you could need, the supplies guide, the schedule, the replays, the vault, everything. So go there if you need anything at any point. But I really don't want to spend time on logistics right now because we have a lot of good conversation to be had. So instructors, hopefully you can all hear me, or panelists, sorry, you can all hear me. You can turn on your cameras and your mics and come join me. My friends, my people. Here. Oh my God, Good Type is in one room together too.
Is our mic on?
Yeah, we're in one room.
Hello. I can't see Good Type. They're miles away. What's going on?
We're filming something else, so we just use the same setup.
They're so small.
We're so small. Hi.
How perfect is the timing that you guys are together? I love that.
Yeah.
Everybody else, thanks you guys for joining. Okay, I'm going to give you all an opportunity to introduce yourselves in a second for those people in the chat who might not know all of your faces yet. But I just kind of want to give an idea of what this session is going to be for people who might not know what to expect. In workshop week, we've never really talked about business stuff before. In the Q&As with all the instructors, we talk about, how they got to where they are a little bit, but not really from a business perspective, because this is like more of an art learning week. But I thought it would be cool this year to bring on some people who, like all of you guys, have built crazy businesses around different parts of your art, doing different things, as sort of like a career day for everybody to get an idea of what they could do with the art that they're learning, and inspire people. I'm curious, in the chat, could you guys tell us how many of you guys have a business? How many of you guys want a business? I'm just curious what the vibe is. But I think we should start by doing some introductions so everybody kind of knows what all of your expertises are. I'm just going to go by them.
Blowing up.
Also, is expertises a word? Is that real?
It is now, James. It is.
Is it? Okay, I'm fine with that. All right.
Okay. Just because of your sass, I'm going to make you start first.
Knew it. So intro, hey? Intro. For anybody that doesn't know me, there's probably quite a lot of people who don't know me here because I'm more of a designer rather than an artiste, I would suggest. My name is James Martin. I am known on the internet as Made by James. Even my parents call me Made by James now, which is a little bit weird, isn't it? I've been in the design world for almost 20 years. I'm an author. I built my own agency. I'm now a creative partner in Lincoln Design Co. And my focus from 2024 onwards, so first 20 years for clients, next 20 years is going to be really fucking shit up in the design education space. Sorry, swearing. I didn't realize. I didn't ask Becca if I was allowed to swear or not, but too late now.
There are kids workshops as part of workshop week, so maybe try and keep it PG, but I know that you can't control yourself.
It's impossible.
Are the kids out here watching the business
panel?
Yeah, I love it.
To be fair, I will hold my potty mouth. That's just like hello in England. That's basically me. I'm very much focused on becoming a guide for the new generation of designers within the brand space. So I'm not there's plenty of other cool people to hear from. So I'll leave that there and Becca's telling me off via text right now. So
I am not. Okay, so just I kind of want to give everybody who's here a recap of what the lane that I invited each of you for was. And James, I really was hoping that you would talk about the client work part.
Yeah.
Because you did it for 20 years and that's kind of like their first.
I've got that client bit down. I've been doing that for longer. Don't you worry about that. I got
Love
you. Yeah.
All right. Lainey, my pregnant partner in crime.
Yes, hi. I'm 8 months pregnant, so I have that like Darth Vader breathing whenever I talk. It's just, she's sitting right on my esophagus all the time. Uh, Hi, I'm Lainey. My company is Designed by Lainey, and I actually started first I was an event planner for a little while, and then I was a calligrapher, and that kind of morphed into stationery. And then kind of similar to Becca, like I do a lot of education now for other stationery designers. So I think that's my lane would be stationery design, but fully self-taught designer. And so I love to teach people who kind of are on that same path and aren't necessarily like classically trained and educated in design. And I make some fonts, and so I have a lot of resources for other designers. So I've done a little bit of everything at this point.
Lainey did my wedding invites.
Yes, that was so
I see a lot of people in the chat asking if this will be in the vault. Yes, we are recording this one. This one will be in the vault. So stay here because it's more fun live to be in the chat, but we will have a recording of it. Okay, thanks, Lainey. Allie.
Hi. Oh my gosh, I was just replying to someone in the chat. Yes, I do have a fabric line. I'm Allie K or Allie Koch. It's too hard to pronounce my last name, so I just go by Allie K. My business is Allie K Design. I posted my very first Instagram post 10 years ago this year, so I'm just gonna say this is my 10-year anniversary. So I've done a lot of different things within that 10 years. I started painting globes. So if you have a globe or know of my globes, you're just like an OG fan. Then I was like, okay, I need to prove to my husband that this is a business, because he's like, no, this is a hobby. I'm like, give me 6 months, let me prove you wrong. So I got into the wedding industry. I did invitations and calligraphy and signage for that. Then I also got my first book deal in 2017. And then from there, I painted my first mural in my studio at the time and posted on Instagram, and it just kind of took off. I quit the wedding industry because it just wasn't my people. And like the vendors are my people, but the customers are not my people. So yeah, it's just been an evolution of books and murals and education and doing panels like this and just whatever I can get my hands on. I think I have like 13 books at the moment and working on 4, 6 this year.
So I could have invited you on to be the book expert, but I invited you on to be the mural expert. We can talk about both, but I feel like most of the people in the chat would probably step into trying to do a mural before trying to write a book. So we'll start with the murals.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
they make more money. The murals make more money. So
interesting. James is like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, Alicia.
Hi, you guys. Oh, you guys are so impressive. I feel like I have a really small thing that I do. So let me introduce myself. My name is Alicia Souza. I'm based in Bangalore in India, where it is nighttime. It's close to bedtime. Anyway, I live here. I've been here for about 14 years now. I live here with my husband and my almost 4-year-old son and the cutest dog in the world. And I've been drawing as a freelancer from the time I moved here, and also have my own online store and a company that manufactures artist merchandise for artists nationally and internationally as well. Been drawing on Instagram comics and everything that possibly makes me smile or makes me giggle. I love drawing things like that. And I've been posting on Instagram for a while, so that's where most of my work tends to be shoved on. But yeah, that's it.
Alicia's being humble. She has a crazy successful online shop and a whole line of products, and that's why she's here. She's incredible.
Very sweet. Thank you. But yeah, you guys are amazing.
Okay, and lastly, Katie and Alana of Good Type. Let's hear your intro.
Hi, we're really far away. Hello over there. We're together for once, but normally we aren't. I'm usually in Austin, Texas, and she's here where we are now in Rochester. And
And we actually met via her sliding into my DMs. But like James, we are also effing-ished up in the education space. We have a community of over 1 million artists on Instagram and elsewhere that we help find inspiration, skill building, and also a big pillar of ours is offering education around business, which is exactly what we're doing here today. And our specialty, we would say, for this is art licensing. I'll let you give a little background if you want.
I think you nailed it. I think you did a great job. We also both, like Allie and James, are in the author world as well. And yeah, we're going to talk mostly, I think, about licensing today because it's our
Yeah.
absolute favorite.
I don't know if you guys were here at the end of Olga's session, the last one right before this, but she was talking at the end of her lesson about how she takes her cards and digitizes them and then licenses them. And I was like, well, that's a perfect little lead in to this.
Perfect. We love
Yeah.
Olga.
Yeah. So a couple of you touched on like how you got into all of this, but my next kind of question for each of you was going to be how did it all of a sudden one day dawn on you that this should be a business and that you should start a business out of the lane that we're talking about specifically? So James, when did client work start for you? How did it go? It carried on for 20 years, so obviously it went well. But how did it start? And like, when did you get the inkling to turn that into a business? Turn your art into a business?
When I needed to pay for all of my drugs, Becca. So obviously I had a bit of a troubled childhood, obviously. And for me, like, art was the only thing I had. So went to college, went to uni, did all that. Was working at a coffee shop, ended up getting a little job in a design studio, and then I was working there, doing bits and pieces for that. And then I had this decision to start my own thing or not start my own thing. So I suppose the question was, because I'm not really going from an artist as a hobby into an art career. So I'm going from like a bit of a more designer based background. So what was the question again? Like going from like with reference to like my first client experience, was it?
Well,
Sorry,
it
Becky,
was
you're
just-
going to tell
yeah.
me off so bad. I get
No,
my dyslexia and ADHD goes all over the place. Sorry. What was the question?
It was basically just like, when did you decide that you were gonna make this a go? Like, what encouraged
Yeah.
you to decide?
Well, I think the fact that it was my only thing that I had going for me at the time was as a big thing. To start my own agency was tough. I just did it, but I still didn't know whether it was a thing I wanted to do. It was more of a thing I just was keeping me distracted, was keeping me somewhat focused. And as I continued to grow in confidence and get more clients, I started to find I was taking it a little bit more seriously, and as I was kind of growing up. So I can't particularly put a kind of date on that particular moment, but for me it was just a matter of like finding something that I know I like doing and then pushing in a direction and keeping going in that, allowing myself to wiggle a little bit with opportunities, and now I'm sitting here. So I think it was all just a matter of like focused effort, having a bit of an idea of the person I wanted to be, and then falling forward
Yeah.
kind of constantly, I would say, would be my answer. I'm still figuring shit out, Becca, you know that. So and I'm 40. I've
We
got
all
to stop swearing. Sorry, my bad. Sorry.
Okay, well, I was debating between just like talking all about client work with James first and then jumping from person to person, but I like this question, so I think I'm going to ask it to all of you first, and then we'll come back to specific questions for each person. So Lainey, do you remember the moment where you decided to turn it into a business?
I feel like I always like to say that everything happened kind of accidentally, but looking back, it's like, of course I ended up here. Like everything in my life pointed to like right where I am, but I didn't really see it in the time. So I think you just have to be open to trying things and shifting, and maybe in 20 years, like I assume I'll be in a different place, but it will be right for that time period. I'm sure like having a baby is going to change everything, in some way that I don't foresee. But I grew up like both my parents were entrepreneurs, and then I started in corporate work and I was working with these like multi-million-dollar corporations, and I think, and I had all this like B2B sales training. And I think what happened for me was I started to do this creative work on the side, like being an event planner and doing calligraphy. I took my first calligraphy class with, I think it was Twinkle and Toast's first calligraphy class that she taught. And I was one of her students. If y'all know her, she's kind of a legend. So that was pretty cool. But so I started doing all this creative work. And what I found was so many people just did this as a hobby and never took themselves seriously and didn't know how to charge, or didn't even see it as a possibility for something that could support their family, could support their dreams, could actually be this big thing. Like they thought, oh, I might do this as a job, but I'll have to make sacrifices because I won't make a lot of money, and that's okay. But you know, they didn't even see this as a possibility. And I saw this as a possibility from my background and everything. I'm really sorry if it's loud. There is a little construction going on that we didn't know about. Hopefully it's not too bad. But I think that was where I started to think, okay, I can help people see this as a possibility. And so especially with education, like that's been my favorite thing, is opening up people's minds, because they'll be like, oh, I'm scared to charge extra for this, or I'm scared I'm scamming people if I'm charging more than the printer charged me for the invitations or something. And I'm like, okay, do you think I'm scamming you when I charge you a profit on like this consultation call you paid $250 for? Like, so I think just kind of giving people that thing to look forward to, and the idea that it can be a successful business, and that starting a business doesn't have to require sacrifice. It doesn't have to be a hobby. It doesn't have to be looked down upon. It doesn't have to be something where you're sacrificing money or freedom or time or any of those things, I think was the most inspiring. I don't think this is answering your question at all as far as the moment, but that's kind of like where it grew for me.
Just so you guys all know, I have these like little pointed questions, but I don't care if you go off on tangents. That's the whole point. You guys all have knowledge bombs to drop on everybody, so you go in whatever way you want to take it. Okay, Allie, do you remember?
So I kind of briefly mentioned it in my intro, and everyone's like, F the husband, which is, so I need to explain. So 10 years ago, me and my husband, we went to high school together, went to college at different colleges, but we've been together since we were 14. And since then, like, we just never had the example of an art business. It is drastically has changed. When we grew up, it was the starving artist mentality. If you said you wanted to be an artist, they kind of gave you the look like, oh, bless your heart type of thing. So when I told my husband, and he's very like business oriented, a family full of engineers, he's constantly thinking like 401k, insurance, like, no, art's a hobby. Like, you need to have a 9-to-5 job. And I'm like, I think this is a thing. Just let me prove you wrong type of mentality. And so fast forward to today, I have been able to retire my husband from corporate life. He now works with me. So he definitely is like the most supportive person. We just didn't have the example. I was iffy about it too, when I was starting out my business. So it is, yeah, it's just been like a full circle moment. One of my favorite stories, layers to my life. But yeah, so I graduated with a marketing degree, and it was kind of like the Hunger Games. Everyone was going for the same jobs outside of college. And I didn't have the experience because I nannied or worked at like a small boutique, helping up a family friend all through college. So while I was interviewing for jobs, that's when I started doing the canvases and globes and things like that. And that's when like my friends, we were poor. So I was giving my friends things that I made for their birthdays, and like, oh my gosh, I have a friend coming up. Can you make something for it? Like, it just kind of like just a domino effect of creating things for your friends and family. And then they started paying me for stuff. And I was like, this is weird. So yeah, after it was kind of like that first year after college is when things started coming into place and things like that. I remember like my very first big client was Kendra Scott. And I remember like getting out of bed and just like, I made it. And my husband was like, you are crazy. I was like, this is insane. But it was, yeah, just like little moments like that. I'm like, okay, I think I made it. And then like the next year, I'm like, oh no, I made it. And then the next year, I'm like, no, I made it.
And now you're at
telling
workshop
myself
week,
this-
so you made it.
We all made it. We all
Yeah.
made it here.
Now I made it. So
No,
I
but I
think there's
actually,
something different that I'm like, nope, I've made it. So
Yeah. Okay, raise your hand, panelists, if you had someone in your life who didn't want you to turn art into it, or who was skeptical about you turning art into a career. Okay, I thought all of you would. I thought maybe that this James was like, is that 10 or just
Yeah. Well, I was kicked out of school. Do you know what I mean? Like fucking hell. I was kicked out of school and home. Nobody gave me a hope. So I don't have enough fingers, unfortunately. So.
Yeah. I specifically remember when I told my dad I was going to quit my corporate job to do this full time. And he was like, that is a terrible idea. And now he jokes.
Yeah.
Now he jokes that he is the worst advice giver in the world. So
well, I feel like we've paved the way now to where if someone's like, yeah, I'm going to start an art business, they don't get the like, oh, that's cute. They're like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. What are you going to do? Like things like this. So I'm excited that these new generations and these people that are starting businesses now, people are more excited versus that kind of like, let me prove you wrong mentality.
yeah, totally. I think you're right. This is the kind of conversation that needs to be had so people know it's possible for sure.
I also think it's really powerful. Like I had like a 5-year plan to quit my job and I ended up doing it in like 2.5 years. And I think you'll see like, I was friends with a photographer who said, I really want to book 12 weddings in my first year full time. And he ended up booking like 35. So it's like, once you commit to it, and if you're one of those people who's side hustling and you're like, it's not growing as fast as I want it to, once you really commit to it, you'll start to see all that growth because you're dedicating more to it and you're going to start to see more back. So I think that's really powerful when you're like scared to take that leap.
Yeah. Okay, Alicia, do you remember what it was like when you started?
Yeah. Okay. So after I studied design in college, and I realized very quickly that I really do not like. I mean, not like design, but I really loved illustrating. And as soon as I finished uni, on the portfolio review day, I got a call saying there's a job for me. So I was really excited. That sealed the deal for me that I really wanted to be an illustrator. And I started working as a contract illustrator, and this was in Melbourne. And then I moved to India to start a company. I left everything and I came here and I was so new. And but sadly that didn't work out. So a 1.5 years later, and that is where I usually say my journey started, because it literally was thrown into the deep end of trying to make illustration work as a career in a place where I literally did not know an illustrator and didn't know where this is going to work out. I started, that's when I started Instagram. I was really shy, which is strange because now I'm here talking, but I was really shy. And put my work out there, and that's when I started freelancing and working with corporates. And then people started asking if I could get these drawings on merchandise. Then I went to the nearest print shop, got some merchandise made, went to a Sante, which is like a flea market, the equivalent. So they were artist stalls. That did really well. And I think that for me really set the course for me having also the fact, by the way, that I love products and merchandise and stickers. I'm going to say, I love it. I love stationery. And I started doing that on the side. But there came a point where the contract work, which is the freelancing work that I do with corporates, got so much, which was a really good sign, but that I couldn't handle having a store as well. But that was me, having the products under my bed, calling the courier guy to come. It's very manual over here, at least that time. And, then I met my partner, which just happened to be I just happened to meet him, and he's still my partner till today, who handles the business side of the online store. It changed for me because I realized that there's only 24 hours in a day, and there's some things I just have to delegate. And I always say that also was a turning point in how both the things structurally grew together, of like me still working as an artist, and I still do today, where I get to work on briefs and projects that come in. I love that. Also running this entire business that runs completely on its own, sometimes without me as well, or at least doesn't need me on a day-to-day basis. And that's been really great. But yeah, that's kind of how the journey went. From there to like, a lot of people that, oh, the usual.
Alicia, you answered the question that I was going to ask you about your
Ah.
business specifically, which was like how has it changed from like I imagine in the early days, you like packing orders and putting
Yes,
shipping
it
things out.
was.
Thing is so having like stacks of boxes in your house for people who are
It
ordering
really was that.
to changing it into like this hands-off, beautiful store that you have you can just buy things. So you just already answered my question. I love it.
I'm glad. Yeah, but just a little thing that it changes even now. It's always been like, I think also with changing technology, we've had, say, people, we've had like a warehouse where we've had products stocked in and we had to hire people who can do the packaging, but now we can actually outsource it to an external company who can do things like that. So I think the business just keeps growing and moving according to like times and how the business wants to grow also in a way. But yeah, that's the gist.
And would you say that like for somebody who would be interested in starting a business where they're selling products and putting their art on merchandise and stuff, would you say that it's important for them to start it doing everything manually and kind of get their toes wet that way? Or how would you, if someone wanted to start doing that, what would be your biggest suggestion for that business specifically?
To start doing this. Okay, so if you're starting, if you're just starting a business, I think it's nice to get your hands dirty, but I don't think it's really necessary. Again, there's no one size fits all for in anything business, right? For example, you packaging it, they'll just teach you how a product, you wouldn't have realized, a product sits really nicely here, or it moves to the side if you're putting it in. All those things are so specific if you're doing it yourself. But say there's just no time and someone can do it better, then it's fine that someone else does it for you. So yeah, I think starting off and initially, if you can, at least be around people who are doing the parts that are not your domain. It's always great. Yeah.
Fair answer. I feel like we could go so much further into advice for people starting a business like that.
So much
Yeah.
detail.
Okay, good type. I don't know how you guys want to answer the question about getting started because each of you had your own businesses before, then you had a different business together, and now you have this business together, but just hit me with whatever thoughts you've had this whole time.
Well, so yeah, we should probably talk about our businesses as artists before we came together, since that'll probably be most relevant for this panel. But basically, we had really weirdly similar stories before we ever met each other, which is why we like got each other so well. But we both worked as art directors out of design school, and then we just were feeling like
Unfulfilled.
yeah, something was off, and we decided to go out and be our own bosses. We each created our own businesses around, it was originally around like products, like stationery. She was selling planners and stuff like that, and I was selling my own greeting cards. And then what happened is we kind of fell into the world of art licensing by accident. For me, it was because I was making those greeting cards and then putting them on my Instagram and online and like pinning them to Pinterest. And then I started getting some inquiries from companies that were like, hey, we want to license these pieces. Can we do that? And I was like, oh, yeah, of course. And then I Googled what is art licensing because I'd never heard of it before. And I think your story, yeah, she had a really similar experience.
I think the really important thing to know is that both of us were really strategic about leaving our full-time jobs. Specifically, Katie had like a 30-page business plan, and we both
in a binder that I passed around at my table with my family just to prove to them, aka myself, that I was confident enough to go ahead and do it.
And I think we were both really fortunate to be raised by people who like really fostered that in us and believed in us, and we had a really great support system. But like we took it very seriously, and we were really strategic. Like it's not easy, and it's not something that just happens overnight. And plenty of times we have shifted. I mean, we've had like 3, 4, or 5 businesses, all with like the same idea, but a little bit different. And we've just like rolled with the punches. And yeah, we definitely didn't take it lightly. We really made a plan, and it sometimes takes longer than you expect, and sometimes goes even faster and you can't keep up. But we were both really strategic and had like a long-term goal for it. And the funny thing about us working together is that was completely the opposite. Is one day Katie and I were just talking about like the next thing we wanted to collaborate on, and she was like, I guess we're starting like a business together. We're like, we should probably make this a real thing, I guess.
But what brought us together originally was that we had each found art licensing independently, and we both wanted to create courses on it to teach people about it because it's such an underutilized income stream for artists. And a lot of people don't know what it is, which maybe we should also define it. But we decided to hook up to create the class together, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. Do you want us to define art licensing, or do you feel like people...
Well, so my next kind of like plan for this chat was I was going to ask each
Okay.
individualized question based on your lane. We already talked about Alicia's now. So let's just keep it rolling with good type. So my question for you guys was, what is one thing that you wish people would understand about art licensing? Like, give us a little
One?
more. Right?
Just one?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get you to define it and then talk to me about like, what are things that people have no idea exist in the world of art licensing, how much money can be made, what's possible over there, what can artists do?
Licensing is a magical world. We're going to define it first. Okay, so it's basically like renting out your art. So when you create a piece of art as the artist, you own it and you get to decide what are you going to do with those rights. And one of your options is to sell it to somebody else. Now you can sell it to multiple clients at the same time. If you put the right contracts into place, you can sell it to different industries at the same time. You can sell one piece of art that you've created again and again. It's your property, so you get to decide what you're going to do with it and who you use it, where, for how much time. So there's just so much flexibility and so much juice you can squeeze out of the fruit of just one piece of art, which is why we love it so much. And it really has this opportunity for becoming passive over time. Now, I don't want to say that it's a get rich quick scheme because it absolutely is not. It takes a lot of time to establish yourself and start to get these licenses out in the world. But once you have your licenses starting to build up over time, it really snowballs because you start getting these royalty checks for products that you've licensed years ago, and they keep coming. You know, it could be a small check, it could be a big check, but just having that extra income that's coming in for something that you licensed a long time ago, it really like helps the ebbs and flows of whatever else you're doing in your art business.
Yeah, I was just
so
going to add.
It's so cool to be able to say that your art is on a product in XYZ store.
Yeah, and you didn't have to manufacture it yourself or ship the inventory. You know, for us, that was a really big part of it. But the thing I think that gets people the most frustrated when they want to get into this industry is they give up way too quickly, and they haven't done the hard work of like figuring out where their art really fits or like identifying their unique voice, which is really hard work. We get it. That's what our whole next book is about. And it's really hard and it's really deep work, and our art is so personal. But I think people give up really fast and they expect these instant results when like the nature of licensing is that it's not instant. It's actually very, very slow because the lifespan of a product and like the amount of hands it has to go through. And so we see people giving up way too quickly. And I wish they would understand that it is like a very long process and that it can really snowball, but you have to like be patient and really understand your own work and what value it brings to the people you want to work with.
Yeah, that's a perfect explanation of what it all is and what to expect with licensing.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end, I'm going to ask all of you to explain where people can find more from you, but for people who are interested in licensing specifically, where would you guys send them?
So we have a course on this topic and a free training as well. If you want to just dip your toes in more and like see, is this something I want to pursue more? So you can go to our website, which is goodtype.us. And then under the Learn tab, you'll find all of that, or you can just click the free training and we'll tell you all about it.
And just to reiterate, always throughout Workshop Week, all of these beautiful people's links are on the Workshop Week website. So if you ever can't find anything that's mentioned, You can just go to Workshop Week's website and you'll find it there too. Okay, awesome. Well, there's going to be like, there's a Q&A tab, and I'm tempted to open it and find licensing specific ones and then go one by one, but I feel like we should just keep rolling with some more like chat about the different lanes, and then we can do a Q&A after. So maybe we'll go to Ali next.
Yes.
So for people who are thinking about maybe doing murals, talk to me about what the life of a muralist looks like. I know you share a lot of it on Instagram, but give us a little bit of like behind the scenes / what your mural specific advice would be for somebody who wants to maybe start doing murals as a business.
Yeah, so social media is a very handy, free at the moment tool for running your business. So I definitely highly suggest feeding the monster that it is. I feel like those little pet toys that we had to do when we were younger, and you like feed it, like that was just prep
Tamagotchi.
for Instagram.
Tamagotchi.
Yes. That was prepping us for this social media life. So most of y'all probably are surrounded by walls at the moment, and they could be blank. So just take a marker, take some house paint, take a brush. I have recently discovered that a makeup brush is like the chef kiss of paint brushes. Who would have known? So yeah, if you want to start getting into murals, put paint onto the wall. If you are a renter, you can paint over it. It's just paint. Or if you're like, that's too scary, get a big canvas. That's really great practice to kind of step, like first you have like your iPad, and then you have a canvas, and then you have a wall, or just go for the wall. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, my mom would kill me. It's just paint. You can paint over it. So yeah, that's how I started. I painted my first mural for myself and posted on Instagram. People don't know what they want until they see it. So you have to constantly be showing things that people could hire you for, that you want to be hired for. So that is something you can't just, yes, you can speak it and manifest it. I am a full believer of that, but you also need to show it and put it out there. I feel like it's really not that hard. It looks really hard, but I do all of my designs on an iPad, and then I will project the design onto the wall. You can get super simple projectors. Like my very first projector actually was on Craigslist, like the Overschool projector. Because that's what I thought a projector was just like the school ones, $10 on Craigslist. And then my dad was like, you know, you can use like a movie projector. And I'm like, what? My mind was blown. And so that's what I use now. They range from multiple different price ranges. They all work the same. So get a projector, put that up on the wall. You can trace it out, then paint it. And bada bing, bada boom, there you go. You have a mural. There's a lot of things that go into it, like back end, but I want to make sure that like all the painters have time to do that. Like I said, I post quite a bit of behind the scenes of mural work, and other muralists do too, just so that it is not taboo, it's not scary, because you really don't need a lot of expensive materials. You just use house paint, you don't have to seal it, things like that. So it's a lot easier than you think it could be. Doing art at a large scale can kind of be intimidating, but just take it at small bites at a time.
I like that you started with the advice about social media, because I feel like so many people ask that. Whenever I'm talking about starting a business, people want to know if you have to have social media to do it. And I mean, the answer is no, you don't have to do anything, but especially business, like
depends on your level of success, I guess, of like what you want your business to look like. But
well, and for stuff like murals, I mean, clients are going to find you because you're sharing about them.
I will say I've been doing murals, actual murals, for 8 years, and This is my very first year to ever start sending out outreach emails. I'm doing it more so much as like a testing to like see what this is all about. But for the past however many years it's been, 7 years, I have not had to send out a single email. It's all because it's come from word of mouth or social media.
Yeah.
And so I've done over 100, almost 200 murals. So it definitely, I always say that if you want to have a business, I say social media is like, even like when I look up a business, the first thing that I do is like, what does their social media page look like? Like, it's just kind of like a check of like, is this person legit? That's my personal opinion, but I don't know.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's good advice. I feel like we need to move on to James because he needs to be doing something. He's like he's like he needs to talk. He needs to let some energy out.
It's good. I am good. It's helping me be patient, which is something I really, really need. So it's good. Thank you.
Well, one of the things I was going to ask Ali too, if I had more time, is like getting clients and getting. When we started to touch on that, so I feel like it's only natural to bring it over to you, James. There's a lot we can talk about in terms of working with clients. I feel like that's it's a huge topic, and I know you teach on it. So I think we should just take it back to the most basic and talk about, if someone has only been doing art, has never done this as a business, and is thinking that the first step they want to do is to make art for someone else and have a client. It can feel really overwhelming. It can feel like you're going to really screw it up and someone's going to hate you, and you're gonna be the bad guy if you mess something up and all sorts of stuff. So just talk to us a little bit about what your best advice would be to someone who's never worked with a client before and where they could start with all of that, I guess. Oh, and now he's frozen.
Oh no, you're back now. You're back.
Did you miss my whole question?
No, I got most of it. Do you know what I mean? You were babbling on. I just paused. No, I'm joking. Yeah. So talking about clients. So, I mean, obviously, I can only bring my designer head perspective, but I think this is a good time to do it because I think it's a really important thing to talk about. The brand side of business, especially from whether you're an artist or whenever you run any business, like your brand is an essential selling tool for yourself. So I've always believed it's much easier to sell something when you actually do it yourself. So working on your own brand, especially I can talk from a brand designer's point of view. I can't go and sell a logo if I don't have a logo. Do you know what I mean? I can't go and sell brand strategy if I have no strategy. So I think it's really, really important for when we're talking about social media and all of that craziness. I'm really holding back on my swearing here. I hope you're proud of me. This whole idea of this importance of brand recognition and standing out, and like for me, I can kind of trace it back to some of the things that I did when I was when I build brands for other people and when I build brands for myself. And you've got to work just as hard on your own brand as you do for the people that you're working with. I think that's one of the best things you can ever do. Like everybody on this panel works extremely hard on promoting themselves, selling themselves, marketing themselves. Although they help other people do the same thing, they elevate their brand by themselves as well. Because a lot of creative people tend to work so hard for other people and then totally forget about their own business, and that's why they have to keep like rebuilding their brands or changing their websites every freaking 5 years like I used to have to do. So like let me kind of break it down into like 6 areas. So for me, I kind of call it like this North Star principle. So this is my guide for whenever I'm teaching people or whether I'm working with a brand or whenever I'm thinking about my own brand. There's 6 areas that I really like to personally stay involved in from a design business perspective. And it's like, I have to be good at idea generation. I have to be good at building brands. I have to be good at positioning people. I have to be good at creating experiences. I have to have my business management side of stuff down. And I have to be especially in today's world with the rise of AI and all these other bits and pieces that are happening in the design world and creative world, especially, is this like emotional intelligence, these soft skills. So I think whenever you are building a brand or starting your own company, like if you can, like I said, just to kind of, if you've got good ideas, great, but they're you can't do a lot with them unless you've got your business down. Do you know what I mean? And you need because you need to be able to make money out of it. So keep your ideas, understand how to build brands and build ideas. Positioning is really, really important because my world is competitive. The world everybody here is in is very competitive as well. So you have to be able to stand out and understand your audience. Like, who are you targeting? Like, what differentiates you from other people? Like, especially in the art world, I'd imagine it would come down to style or the services that you offer. So really understanding who you are and what you offer to other people is really important. And I think, especially when it comes to the experiences side, clients are often, from my own experience of the design world, are a second, they're kind of in the background. Like, designers want to make as much money and it's at the detriment to the client experience. And I think if you can build relationships and like using these soft skills, and create these wonderful experiences for your clients where it's done through like creative mutualism, like artists need clients, designers need clients, and clients need artists, and clients need designers. Do you know what I mean? Like, there has to be this symbiotic relationship, because if you build that, they'll keep coming back and they'll keep asking you for more things. And it's always much easier to keep a client than it is to find a new one, I would suggest. And then obviously the boring stuff like business management, good processes, good, all of those things, which I'm not going to bore an artists panel about, but they're the things that make you tick. They're the things that keep your business running. And like the Good Type Girls were talking about business plans, like you need to have targets for your revenue every year. You need to understand what that looks like. So if you want to make X amount of money, you need to work backwards. What does that look like? How many murals is that? How many pieces of art do I need to license to do that? What do I need to do to be able to get those murals with reference to marketing? So, I mean, I could talk for an hour by myself, but I've done it without swearing this time. So it's good, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So that's what I would say.
If I could sum all of that up, I would say that what you're getting at is that when you're starting out, like, know who you are, know what you want to offer.
Yeah.
And make sure your clients are having a good experience. And then you can start, perfecting your processes and adding all those things in.
Yeah, I mean, you should have just said it, shouldn't you?
I will say, when it clicks with me and why I was able to not have to really do the outreach emails is when I was in the wedding industry. And Lainey will probably have even more experience in this, but when I started off, I was so stressed that I was trying to market to the brides because I thought that that was my client. But in reality, and what I saw great success in was actually marketing and nurturing the relationships in the industry. So like the wedding planners, the florists, the photographers, I became really close knit with that industry. And that was why I didn't have to send a single email to a bride or feel like I had to go to shows or things like that. The network and the word of mouth kind of came in through nurturing those relationships. So like with murals, I do the same thing. It's business development or it's interior designers. Like, you have to kind of like think outside of the box in that sense. Like, don't be so narrow, like, oh, I'm in the wedding industry, I need to market to brides, because that's not the case.
True.
Yeah, that's such a valid point. I feel like that you could apply that to any industry too, not just like the wedding industry.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to Lainey. I feel like a lot of people who are here this week for workshop week and who are into paper products and calligraphy and hand lettering and all sorts of stuff, one of the first places people think to take it is stationery, and specifically for weddings. And I know that you teach about this, so I'm curious. I would like to start my question for you by just asking, when you have people coming into that course, what does everybody immediately come in scared about or have no idea about, or like what's the biggest like barrier to people getting started in that kind of business?
Yeah, I think the business is a good overlap for people who are like physical artists or letterers already, and then kind of this graphic design piece. So we don't have to be like the most incredible graphic designer to make stationery. So I find that a lot of people come into the industry with a little bit of both. And so I think learning design is going to be usually the biggest hurdle that they're starting with, and learning printing. So the most common question I get is like, what printer do you use? Because they think that you're just going to click print on this printer and your work's going to look amazing. And a lot of printing issues are actually design issues where you're asking the printer to do something that it just can't really do or shouldn't be expected to do in that color space or on that type of paper or whatever it is that you're asking. So that is always a huge hurdle. And I recommend, I mean, the best advice I have for that is, first of all, don't think you're just going to like buy a $300 printer and your work's going to be amazing. Like, that's not how it works. So spend some time kind of learning how printing processes work, how color spaces work, and then diving into design programs. And a lot of people are really scared to invest money up front. So I'll hear like Adobe Creative Cloud, which is kind of the industry standard for graphic design, is like too expensive. And I get it. Like, I get that those numbers can feel so scary, but like, I had a friend who tried to develop a product for the military, and he invested like $45,000 in like molds and creation and all this stuff. So when you really think about it, like Ali mentioned this, like the businesses that we're starting, I understand every dollar is important, and I'm not trying to belittle anybody's like financial situation, but I think like when we're considering actually starting a business and taking it seriously, we have to be willing to invest like a little bit. And in the grand scheme of things, these are not very expensive businesses to start up, and you don't need everything at once. You can kind of work towards things, but like I always say, the best things to invest in are, as a stationery designer, would be like Adobe Creative Cloud or a design program of some sort, a serious one, and a client management system, because once you start getting clients, you're going to want to have that set up. You're going to kind of want to act like that business you want to be, as opposed to necessarily the business that you are at the time. And then the third thing is just like samples of your work. So you'll learn so much from designing and printing things. And one of my favorite just ways to start and get some of that experience is to offer like free design for smaller events. So if you have a friend who's having a birthday party, happy birthday, Mavs. You can always offer like free design services. They'll pay for printing, and it's a smaller order. You're not ruining somebody's wedding invitations if something goes wrong. But it's a good way to kind of dip your toes in and learn some things. And I guarantee like you'll make some stuff that is so beautiful on screen, and then all of a sudden you'll print it out and be like, wait, what did I do wrong? How, like, what happened here? And you'll think the printer is completely broken. And it's really because there's some like, design questions that we need to answer before we go and click print. So I think just like testing things out, and something that I just see that to me when I'm looking at new business owners and I'm like, this person really is totally going to make it, is if they have that ability to kind of figure things out a little bit on themselves, like on their own, try things, join a workshop, invest in a tool that's going to help you, ask some people, Google stuff yourself, try it out, test some things. Those are kind of I know it sounds so simple, like it sounds like such a simple differentiator, but when I see someone who's like in a Facebook group every single day asking every single question and not able to try anything out or make a decision on their own, that's when I'm kind of like, okay, this person needs a mindset shift if they're going to be successful here. That's not to be a jerk. Everyone can be successful. But I think there's some skills that, no matter if you're a muralist or a designer or an illustrator or what it is you do, that ability to kind of just figure things out, test things out, try something, see what happens, evaluate the success of your attempt, and adjust for that, I think is just probably, in my opinion, the number one skill of any kind of entrepreneur.
I think that leads us perfectly into, well, I was hoping we would have time to open up the Q&A box, but we absolutely do not. This was a massive underestimation on my part of how many people I could talk to about their businesses in 1 hour. but you're leading into kind of the next thing, Lainey, which I was going to ask each of you if you had like one sentence piece of advice. If you're talking to people in the chat who have never had any experience with business, but that they want to do something with their art that could make them money, what would your like baseline piece of advice be? And I was going to start, and mine would be just be scrappy, like talk to people you know, even if they don't have their own businesses, like, you know, people who have expertise that you don't have that can help you with things at the very beginning. And so that would be mine, just to be scrappy. So let's go, Alicia, next.
I think every time I talk to someone who's just starting out is that they want really quick results. And I think for me, I would have said, and I still use it for myself as well, is that you have to take time for something to work. Starting off, I think everyone thinks that you get on Instagram and suddenly you can get every client under your belt, and it just doesn't work like that at all. And with anything, even with new technology, even for me now, I think I try to give everything a fair go in terms of time. And once you do that, know that time also includes maneuvering within, the constraints of whatever you're doing. So whether you're trying something new or you're trying a new software or learning a new skill, giving it time, a fair amount of time, and giving yourself enough time, it makes it just easier and less stressful, and also just really good in general. That will be it.
Okay, good type. Your turn.
I think base your business on your authentic self and build everything off of that. Because if you don't start with that and you don't have that passion and feel really connected to what you're doing and feel like yourself, you don't have a foundation to grow off of.
That's a good one.
That's good. That was okay. I said it like it sounded so mean. It was really good.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was just gonna add, like, if it's not fun, it's not fun. Like, don't do it if it's not fun. There's so many things that we do that are like make us want to pull our hair out.
Yeah.
And we have to like balance that with the things that are so fun that it makes it worth it to do. So like if you're not enjoying it, then you need to
If you want a not fun business, go do something like
Go do something else.
Accounting. I don't know.
Go do
That's
something
not fun for
easy.
me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I always tell people to, before you start the business, decide that you really want that to be a business and not a hobby, because it'll change the hobby aspect of it. Okay, we got to go quick.
Oh yeah.
Yup.
Who's next?
Oh, I said Lainey, but yeah, go.
Oh, sorry. I think if I had a second one, since Becca kind of stole my number one, just act like the business that you want to be. It's really easy to stumble into systems that work when you have tons and tons of time, but don't work when you all of a sudden have 20 clients to work with. And also, Ali kind of mentioned this earlier, but like sharing work that you want to be creating, even when it's not the work that you're actually being paid to create, will get you to that point faster. So act like who you want to be and you'll get there faster.
I like it. Okay, Ali.
My favorite advice that I have been told since I was a little girl, and it has literally saved my life. We are creators. We create things with our hands. And so I have to remind myself all the time that if it was perfect, it wouldn't look handmade. So that's what people are hiring us for, is for our handmade craft. And so we can't stress on it's not perfect, it's not the right time, things like that. So just remember, if it was perfect, it wouldn't look handmade.
I love that. Okay, James, wrap it up with a bow.
Effort is free.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's
Snap
what
that
that's
one.
what he was
Mic
planning
drop.
this whole
Yeah.
time, figuring out this pencil. He's like, what can I
I've got
Yeah,
it.
throw
I've
your
got
mic
it.
across the floor.
I've got a little made by James ring and inscribed and engraved inside as effort is free. There you go.
Yeah.
Everyone in the chat is saying Mike.
Love that.
Perfect ending. Guys, thank you all so much for coming on here and for agreeing to be a part of this. This is giving me some thinking to do, because there's so many questions about business stuff. It seems we need to be incorporating more of it. Everybody in the chat, go and find all of these people on their respective social medias. You can find them all at the Workshop Week website, and we're following them on the Workshop Week Instagram account too. So if you are having trouble, go and find them and find all of their links. You can learn so much more from each of them about all of these things. We just don't have enough time to cover it all, or for me to go around and get everybody to tell you where to find them. So do it that way. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all so much for being part of this. I know it's been a long couple months of trying to plan and organize everybody, but I think it was worth it.
Thanks, Becca.
Thank you.
Bye,
Can I
Becca.
answer questions
Thank you
after
so
this?
much.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Sorry.
Am I able to type in answers to the questions to any of these once this is done, or does that go
My
away?
team mentioned that you can go back, like the Zoom will keep running, and in the Q&A tab, you should be able to go back into like the dismissed or the archived questions and answer them if you want to. But my advice to Olga in the last session too, she asked the same question. Go put a Q&A box on your story right now on Instagram, and then people can find you and ask you specific questions about your thing. Good types like, I'm on it. Cool. Great. Thank you guys again so much. I'm gonna have to let you all go now.
Ta-ta. Au revoir.
Hey.
Bye-bye.